Hey guys, I'm going to be reading you Quiz 1 Part 1, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. He was plainly blind, for he tapped before him with a stick and wore a great green shade over his eyes and nose, and he was hunched, as if with age or weakness, and wore a huge old tattered sea cloak with a hood that made him appear positively deformed. I never saw in my life a more dreadful looking figure. He stopped a little from the inn and raising his voice in an odd sing-song, addressed the air in front of him. Will any kind friend inform a poor blind man who has lost the precious sight of his eyes in the gracious defense of his native country, England? God bless King George. Where in or what part of this country he may now be. You're at the Admiral Benbow Black Hill Cove, my good man, said I. I hear a voice, said he, a young voice. Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and lead me in? I held out my hand, and that horrible, soft-spoken, eyeless creature gripped it in a moment like a vice. I was so much startled that I struggled to withdraw, but the blind man pulled me up close to him with a single action of his arm. Now, boy, he said, take me in to the captain, sir, said I. Upon my word, I dare not. Oh, he sneered. That's it. Take me in straight, or I'll break your arm. And he gave my arm as he spoke a wrench that made me cry out. Sir, said I, it is for yourself, I mean, the captain. Captain Bill is not what he used to be. He sits with the drawn cutlass. Another gentleman. Come on now, march, he interrupted he. I never heard a voice so cruel and cold and ugly as the blind man's. It cowed me more than the pain, and I began to obey him at once, walking straight in at the door and towards the parlor where a sick old buccaneer was sitting dazed with rum. The blind man hung close to me, holding me in one iron fist and leaning almost more of his weight on me than I could carry. Lead me up straight to him, and when I'm in view, cry out, here's a friend for you, Bill. And if you don't, I'll do this. And with that, he gave me a twitch that I thought would have made me faint. Between this and that, I was so utterly terrified of the blind beggar that I forgot my terror of the captain, and as I opened the parlor door, cried out the words the blind man had ordered in a trembling voice. The poor captain raised his eyes, and at one look the rum went out of him, and left him staring sober. The expression of his face was not so much of terror as the mortal sickness. He made a movement to rise, but I do not believe he had enough force left in his body. Now, Bill, sit where you are, said the beggar. If I can't see, I can hear fingers stirring. Business is business. Hold out your right hand, boy. Take this right hand by the wrist and bring it near to my right. We both obeyed him to the letter, and I saw the blind man pass some object from the hollow of the hand that held his stick into the palm of the captain's, which closed upon it instantly. Now that's done, said the blind man, and the words he suddenly left and at the words he suddenly left hold of me and with incredible accuracy and nimbleness skipped out of the parlor and into the road, where as I still stood motionless I could hear his stick go tip-tapping into the distance. It was some time before either I or the captain seemed to gather our senses, but at the length and about at the same time I released his wrist, which I was still holding, and drew in his hand and looked sharply into the palm, though I know not at what. He stood abruptly in horror. Even as he did, he reeled and put his hand to his throat, stood swaying for a moment, and then with a peculiar sound fell from his whole height face foremost to the floor. I ran to him at once, but haste was all in vain. The captain had been struck dead by a thundering apoplexy. The Black Cove Hill Cove is a restaurant located in England. Drawn cutlass is a long sword, out and ready to use. Apoplexy is a sudden brain problem, like a stroke or intense bleeding. 1. What is the central idea of the story? A. Although he is apprehensive, Jim takes a blind man that he meets to see the captain. After seeing the toll the visit takes on the captain, Jim wishes he had refused. He blames himself for the captain's death. B. It is impossible to know when an individual's past will back to haunt them. C. A blind man insists that Jim bring him to the captain but the captain is so terrified by the object he is given by the blind man that it causes a fatal stroke that kills him. The story reminds the reader that people cannot be judged based on appearances alone, just like the narrator misjudged the old man on his appearance. D. Jim meets a blind man and assumes based on his appearances that he could not be a threat. He introduced him to the captain who was killed by the blind man. Jim realizes that looks can be deceiving. 2. Paragraphs 11 and 12 contribute to the development of the plot primarily by A. Showing why Jim views the captain as both frightening and powerful, B. Revealing why Jim's motivations for the following the blind man's directions, C. Clarifying the history between the captain and the blind man, D. Building suspense over the upcoming meeting. 3. How does the author's choice of words in paragraph 5 impact the mood of the passage? A. The tone shifts from content to curious. B. The word choice creates an ominous mood in paragraph 5. C. The mood of terror continues to build in paragraph 5. D. The author's language introduces a mood of despair in paragraph 5. 4. Which excerpt from the passage best shows how Jim feels about the captain? A. Paragraph 13. B. Paragraph 12. C. Paragraph 19. D. Paragraph 10. 5. What does the word real mean as used in paragraph 18? A. To bring in on a line. B. To stagger. C. To despair. D. To disobey.